One of the most well-respected college football experts out there totally whiffed on his evaluation of some Auburn players.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us today. We're going to discuss this from all angles. I'm a huge believer in Phil Steele. I love his magazine. I love his coverage throughout the season. I think he's one of the best to ever cover the sport that we all know and love, college football. Darrell, in his preseason SEC lists, I think he totally whiffed on several aspects of it when it comes to these Auburn Tigers and where they're positioned on this. Let's start with Cam Coleman. He's the lone first-team All-SEC player on Phil Steele's list. Should he be the only one? No, but Cam Coleman is worthy of being a preseason SEC first-teamer.
Some of this is semantics. I agree. I mean, there's more about the omissions than the submissions. And
Correct.
I'm with you. When before the internet, it was Lindy's, Athlon's, and Phil Steele's magazines I grabbed and absorbed them. So I respect him. Talked to him before. It's just curious to me. I'm okay with Cam Coleman being first team, but let's just talk about what we would do differently, because that's what this is about. I had him on the second team. And we'll talk about who I would replace him on the first team with. So without a spoiler alert, but I would have had Cam Coleman on the second team, not the first team.
What other receivers in the SEC would you have over Cam Coleman right now?
Well, it depends on how many if he's naming 2 or 3, that's the key. I would have Eric Singleton over him, one that's right across the field from him on the same team. The kid from Georgia, is it? Or maybe it's Alabama that I would have. I just think that if you're having 2 receivers, Eric Singleton needs to be one of them. Cam Coleman probably needs to slide down to second team.
Okay, so you have Eric Singleton over Cam Coleman when it comes to SEC player rankings.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
It's very close.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the other first rounder I think should be, or first team, is Keldrick Falk. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, a lot of publications are putting out their top players in the country, their mock drafts, their top players in the SEC. The Athletic is doing one of those. They had Keldrick as the 6th best player in the SEC. And a lot of the guys ahead of them were quarterbacks. And so to me, this is a guy who's generating chatter of being one of the best non-quarterbacks in the SEC, and you put him on the third team. I mean, that's pretty astounding.
I'd have him on the first team. In fact, those are the 2 that I would have. I would have Singleton and Falk on the first team, and having him at third is just mind-boggling to me, head scratcher. So, yeah, I would have 2 first teamers, and that's who I've already expressed who it would be.
Yeah, I think I would have 2 as well, but I would keep Cam Coleman, and then I would have Keldrick, and then I understand why some of these DBs that I'm super high on aren't there, but I do think you got to have the conversation about Connor Lew at that spot. But he had Connor Lew as the other third teamer next to Keldrick, which is wild to me. I mean, if you don't want to give him first team, I think that's okay. But to say that there's 2 other centers in the SEC better than Connor Lew, I don't know if I'm there. I don't know if I'm there on that.
I'd have him in second team. I would not have had him on the first team, but I definitely would have slid him to the second team along with another offensive lineman as well.
Yeah. All right. So Phil Steele's full list as far as Auburn players and where they are on the All-SEC preseason team, according to Phil Steele. Cam Coleman, the lone first teamer. Second team, Eric Singleton, Xavier Chaplin, Rayshawn Pleasant. Talk about that in a second. Third team, Connor Lew, Keldrick Falk. We already mentioned those 2. And then fourth team, Kayan Lee, and then Jeremiah Wright. Super stoked to see Jeremiah's name on there. I think that's pretty cool. So as far as the second teamers go, Eric Singleton Jr., Xavier Chaplin, Rayshawn Pleasant. We already talked about our opinion of where Eric Singleton should be. You say first team. I think he's right on the second team. Whatever. We're splitting hairs at that point. Xavier Chaplin as a second team left tackle in the SEC. If that is accurate at the end of the season, Auburn will be in a very good spot this year.
Absolutely. And I want to go back and just retrace something, because when you ask me a question, I always like to try to give you an accurate answer.
Okay, yeah.
I recalled who I thought of because you mentioned Singleton and Cole, the Concepcion kid that transferred in, the receiver. I would have him on the first team from what he showed.
Oh, not Ryan Williams.
I'm sorry, Ryan Williams, Concepcion, and Singleton. Those three.
Got it.
Yeah. So, yeah, thinking that there would be
not a bad list.
Thinking there would be three chosen. If there was two chosen, that might. So, okay. So let's go back to that. Blows my mind that he has Pleasant on the second team. And to your point about Chaplin, totally agree. If he is a second team all SEC offensive tackle, it sets up for Auburn to have a really, really good year. And how does that line up with him being a potential first-round draft pick? I think you could be a second-team SEC tackle and still get drafted in the first round.
100%.
So that goes to show you the depth of the SEC. So, yeah, I would have Chaplin there. Pleasant, I don't even see him starting, Zach.
Let's talk about Rayshawn Pleasant. Yeah. I don't even think that's the flyer transfer corner to key in on.
Strader,
if you wanted to do that, I would pick Ryan Strader over him. So
and I would have Crawford. I would have Crawford rated higher than anybody in the cornerback room for Auburn, period.
You know my thoughts on that. Yeah, I agree. I will push back none on that. But yeah, and just talking to folks on the defensive side of the football, I don't know if the plan is to play him that much. And so I don't know. This was the biggest shock to me of all of it. And are we not talking about Rayshawn Pleasant enough? I want to know where this came from, because you're not just putting him on the list. You're saying he's second team. You're saying he's better than Jake Crawford, better than Kayan Lee, better than Ryan Strader, and better than almost every other corner in the Southeastern Conference when you make this proclamation. And I don't get it. And so, we don't ever talk about him on the show. This is the guy who transferred from Tulane. It was after spring, correct? He did not go through spring.
Correct.
He got honored earlier this week with being on, on the group of 5 list for the Walter Camp Award, which is cool. What was it? Auburn Junior Rayshawn Pleasant has been named to the 2025 Walter Camp preseason FBS All-America team. So, he's getting some love. I don't think this is right. And boy, if he does play and he beats out some of these guys, he's going to be dang good. I just didn't see that at Tulane.
That's the elephant in the room that we're missing with this whole thing, is not only where he's rated, but if he is a second team all SEC corner, it absolutely states, or that's absolutely saying that he's beating out Lee or Crawford. So that's the bigger story in my mind. How in the world?
According to this list, he's beating them both out. He has Kayan Lee as a fourth teamer.
So
I don't think it's wrong. I think it's fine.
I don't see in any world that we live in that he is beating out either one of those guys. And in this scenario, he would have to be starting at corner in order to get that recognition.
Yeah. There's just so many corners that you have to get through until I think you get to him. But let's ask the question. There's an element of this that I think we need to talk about that could be something we're not thinking about. And that's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Darrell, we've all been there. It's summertime. In my case, the kids are around a lot more. It's easy to just kind of yeah, we can go do this. Yeah, we can go do that. Yeah, we can go do this. It adds up. And you check your accounts, we spent way too much money this week. Well, hey, at Monarch Money, it makes managing money easier. It's your own personal CFO. And Monarch Money, it's more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's half off, Darrell. monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. So there's an element here when we talk about Rayshawn Pleasant being named to Phil Steele's second team preseason SEC list. To me, I don't think that Phil Steele pulled this out of thin air. I don't think that happened. I don't think the Walter Camp Awards or watch list or whatever just pulled it out of thin air. But what's interesting about Phil Steele stuff is he always values and potentially overvalues returning production. But to me, like, his returning production isn't as good as Jay Crawford or Kayan Lee's, in my opinion. And I think the analytics back that up. Didn't go through spring. I feel like that's an important aspect of this too. We're not even talking about Champ Anthony's factoring into this. I do think Champ Anthony's going to play more nickel this year, but still, I'm just the aspect of this is like he's not going to pull it out of thin air. Is he talks to all these head coaches as part of his thing? He tweets out whenever he talks to a head coach for his magazine. Is there a chance that Hugh Freeze told him this? Is there a chance that Hugh Freeze told him, like, we got a guy, even though he's never seen him practice before, but we got a guy? Is there a chance of that?
I mean, I don't know what the basis of that would be. I mean, it's from a group of 5 school. So if returning production is that important, then why did he have, Cam Coleman ahead of Singleton, who had higher returning production than Coleman did? He's looking more to me at projection and forecasting what Cam Coleman could do, what the ceiling is. If he's talking to Hugh Freeze and Hugh Freeze is pumping up Pleasant, he must have zero confidence in Crawford and Kayan Lee, and I know that's not true. So where is he getting this is a really, really interesting aspect of this, is because just pulling it out of thin air isn't how you go and stay in this business as long as he has. Is that what's the intel? I don't even think he gets on the field ahead of Strader.
That's what I've been told. Yeah, that's what I've been told. I was told that they needed another body. He wanted to get into the SEC. It was a match made in heaven. That's what I was told. So we'll see. I mean, he's athletic. He was really good at Tulane. Is he better than the current guys? I don't know. And the other thing, it's like, okay, he was solid at Tulane. And if you wanted to value like production at your previous spot, that's fine. But Strader's numbers analytically are better at a lower level of competition. So I don't know. Like that's the other thing that doesn't make sense.
And Strader's gotten a lot more, I think, buzz and recognition from a lot more outlets than Pleasant has.
Well, and that's because Strader, like PFF loves Strader because they really value and weight batted passes. And he had a lot of batted passes last year.
Let me look at this. Let me flip this into a euphoric best case scenario for Auburn. If all this hype that we're hearing of corners that we just kind of felt like were add-ons under the radar, if this is true and Strader and Pleasant are as highly touted and it comes to fruition, Auburn will have the best secondary it's had in years. And I'm talking about not even close, because we know what Kayan Lee and Crawford are.
Yeah.
If Kayan Lee and Crawford are conceding snaps to Pleasant and Strader,
what a great situation.
I'm not saying conceding their starting position, but I'm saying, hey, we got to get these guys on the field. Come on off.
Right.
If that's happening from a depth and freshness standpoint,
wow,
Auburn's secondary is a no-fly zone if I've ever seen it.
Wow.
Period.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, so that gets us through the second team. Cam Coleman, first team. Eric Singleton, Xavier Chaplin, Rayshawn Pleasant, all second team. Third team, Connor Luke, Keldrick Falk. We both agree. Do you agree that Connor should be higher?
I think he should be second team, yes.
Okay, and you think Keldrick should be first team?
Correct.
Are you fine? You're fine with Xavier Chaplin, second team?
Yes.
I am. You are?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fourth team.
I would add someone to the third team.
Go ahead.
Crawford.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Jay Crawford not being on this is
that would be my only third.
You told me they're like looking at this, like, hey, there's 2 Auburn corners on this list, and Jay Crawford's not one of them. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean he's not one of them?
I'd have Crawford on the third. I would have Pleasant on no list, right? So that's a subtraction.
Agreed.
I'd have Crawford at 3, and then I'll tell you who I'd add to 4 here in a second.
Okay. Fourth team is Kay and Lee. I'm okay with that. Jeremiah Wright on the fourth team. I'm thinking that has to do with returning production because he really values that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case for Jeremiah Wright. I love that he's getting the nod. I love that because he's given so much to Auburn, and there's been times where it would have made sense for him to transfer and he stayed. I think that's awesome. But I don't think he should be a fourth teamer.
Neither do I. I'd have Lee as a fourth teamer. I would add Riddick and Caleb Harris as fourth teamers, and I would subtract Jeremiah Wright.
I like that. I like that a ton. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that I would want to add.
At the end of the day, I know that I may be really lowballing Caleb Harris because at the end of the day, next year, when the actual all-SEC team gets mentioned, Harris may be second team all-SEC.
Yeah, and some of this, I mean, a lot of this is perception, right? Because he has the production already. What he did as a freshman, statistically, is everything you would want a freshman to do. If he had come into Auburn as a 5-star, the buzz around him would be crazy. Like if he and KJ Bolden switch spots in the rankings, the amount of praise and attention Caleb Harris would be getting would be off the charts and well-deserved. But because he was a 3-star, which I think is more impressive, being underranked, underrated, and then you go and win starting job in the SEC, I think that should be praised more, but that's not what gets clicks. That's not what gets buzz. So I 100% agree with you.
But then this is what drives me crazy, the inconsistency of this. Pleasant wasn't a 5-star.
Right.
So then why is the buzz around him? Harris, you could argue, did as much at a Power 4 school in the best conference in America than Pleasant did in a group of 5 at Tulane. But why is he getting second team love and Caleb Harris is snubbed altogether? Yeah. No sense at all.
Makes sense. And I don't want this to be like that we're not high on Pleasant. I just don't. It's an unknown. It's an unknown.
I'm not saying that he's not a good player. The point is we don't know. So if you don't know, how do you slot him into all second team SEC? That's all I'm saying.
No, I'm with you.
It's an unknown. It's an unproven commodity, and you don't slot unproven commodities into the second team on the best conference in America. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. So, but once again, if he's that dude, what a pickup.
Well, if he's that dude,
that's great. That's great. If I'm Jay Crawford looking at this, so I'm like, what do you mean? What else do I need to do?
Well, that's okay. This is almost something that could probably be even more beneficial for Auburn with him getting snubbed.
Maybe.
Chip on the shoulder because
he already plays with a chip on his shoulder for sure.
And then I also wonder at some point.
Yes,
I know you hate when I bring this up and hate when I say it. Is there a path for a Pleasant or a Strader to move to safety at some point?
Not with this roster, no.
Okay,
I don't think so.
Good. It's just worth throwing out there. I'd love to get your opinion on that. So
sure. Yeah. Or maybe there might be a path for him to play nickel.
Yeah, but I mean, you got your nickel. I mean, and again, I think he's going to have Champ Anthony's going to have a phenomenal. He was showing out.
Devil's advocate, though, and I agree with you. I have very high expectations for Champ Anthony, and this doesn't make sense for the way like Phil Steele would approach it. But like, okay, hey, maybe his recovery slows down a bit, and like Pleasant's able to take the job from him. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I haven't heard anything even close to that. But I'm just trying to think, like, what would make him put Pleasant's name down there.
And why would you put a nickel ahead of your two outside corners? That makes no sense at all.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
It'd be different if like Kayan Lee or Jay Crawford had done anything to warrant getting benched. And I know there's some Auburn fans that act like Kayan Lee's bad. And I'm like, statistically, like, I just don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what you're looking at. They're both fantastic.
He locked it down as a freshman until Pritchett came around, and people forget that the first 4 games of the season in 2023, and played really well. Yep.
Yeah. It was kind of seeming like the weakness of the defense, and it was not a weakness. It was not a weakness. So, who got snubbed? Who got disrespected by this list? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. You said the name, Darrell, of the guy who got snubbed the most. And I think it's Jay Crawford, but I am going to pivot since we've already talked enough corners today. DeMarcus Riddick. Once again, a guy who had a ton of production down the stretch last year, had the 5-star moniker going into his college football career, where there's attention and hype and buzz around him. He should have made this list.
Even if it was 4th team, I'm okay with that. But yeah, he should have been mentioned along with Caleb Harris and Jay Crawford. Those 3 scream snubbed to me. They really do. And it's interesting.
Who's the third one? DeMarcus Riddick,
Caleb Harris, and Jay Crawford. Caleb Harris, yeah. It's amazing that this is the first time I can remember a list coming out where Auburn doesn't have a running back in the top 4, right? In the first, second, third, or fourth. I mean, it's always been Hunter or Bigsby. Even Boobie Whitlow, I think, was a third teamer one year preseason. We know Kerryon Johnson was.
Right.
So, yeah, it's been a long time since Auburn hasn't had a running back sniff this list.
Yeah. Which I think is right. I think it's right. I mean, I don't think we fully know who the back is going to be. So
let me say this, though. This is where it's a cause and effect. Where we always say, if this happens, then watch out here, right? If Auburn's offensive line has 2 first or second team all SEC players, well, and then if you throw in Jeremiah Wright, a third that's in this list, me and you are going to be able to have successful ground attacks running through those holes. So I don't care. I mean, I get it. You're not talking about scrubs. If the offensive line is what it's supposed to be, the running backs that Auburn has will be fine running through those holes. You or I could carry the loaf of bread in those holes. So that is where it may not even matter that Robinson, Cobb, and Alston aren't getting any love. The holes may be big enough and the offensive line push may be enough that it's going to be glorious.
And the threat of the pass, right? I think you're going to have to play against this Auburn offense differently than what Jarquez Hunter had to run up against over the past few seasons. So I think that's another element where whoever it is, and if it is a true committee, then that's fine too. We haven't really seen Hugh Freeze do that before, so I'm not as much into the committee mindset as most people are. I wouldn't be shocked by it. I'm just saying we haven't seen it. But whether it's Darrell, whether it's Damari, whether it's Jeremiah, whoever it is, Alvin, I think they are going to be in a situation to be productive.
When you are looking at obvious, predictable passing situations and you are having success through the air and the linebackers drop and the safeties drop, you may run 5-6 yards before someone lays a hand on you. And again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think that it's going to be pass heavy. I think the ratio is going to switch, but I still think there's going to be times during games where Auburn's going to have to milk clock and they're going to have to run the football because incomplete passes stop the clock. And they should be able to do that with the way that this passing game should soften up the defense.
I hope they're in situations to do that, and I hope they actually.
And I don't want it to be Arnold carrying the rock, okay?
Got it.
Because a lot of people say, well, you got a quarterback that can do it. You don't want that. I mean,
let's just don't throw pickable passes when you're trying to run the clock out. Yeah. Pick 6. One other name I'm just going to throw out there. I don't know if I believe this, but I do think there's a conversation, an argument to be had. 4th team snub, but Malik Blockton.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one. Nobody mentioned other than Falk across the defensive line and no interior defensive linemen, which speaks to how I was concerned about that when you put that stat up there. The most position group that you're concerned with, you put that up on X. And
Right.
I made sure that I specifically said interior defensive line, and that speaks to other people thinking that Auburn's not going to have what it needs there. I disagree. I think they will.
Yeah.
I'm concerned, but I think
Argument for Kieron Crawford, maybe. I think he's kind of improvement mode, at least outside of Auburn. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, Auburn's, I love the representation. I don't fully agree who the representation is, but that's okay.
SEC Media Days does an all SEC preseason team. Let's see how similar it is.
Yeah. And we'll vote with that. And we'll share who our ballots are for sure. So, Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410, Instagram, Darrell Dapp, Wednesdays and Fridays, right here on Locked On Auburn, where you get your podcast.
Yeah. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.